High School of Kalamaria, and today we will present to you the ideals of the Olympic Games, heritage to humanity. In ancient Greece, the value of fair play dominated. Indeed, respect for the race was emphasized by its deification as the god of Aegon. The desire for athletic activity was expressed through the Pan-Hellenic Games, which are held in the context of religious festivals and lasted for a period of time. The most famous were Olympia, Pythia, Nemea, and Isthmia. The highest distinction for an athlete was to be declared as a periodonikis due to his 4 victories in all 4 consecutive sporting periods. The Olympic Games were the most brilliant sporting event of antiquity. They were held with great pomp in honor of Olympian Zeus in the summer every 4 years in ancient Olympia. Athletes from all ancient Greek cities participated. It was an admirably organized institution that lasted from 776 BC to 393 AD, when the Byzantine Emperor Theodosius I ordered the banning of all pagan festivals, including the Olympic Games.
How did the athletes present themselves, dressed or naked?
Initially, the athletes wore very little clothing. First, the Lacedaemonians appeared at the games naked and anointed with oil. Soon, all the athletes followed the example of the Spartans, wanting to show off their well-toned bodies. Kalpatira, daughter of Olympic champion Diagoras, sister and aunt of 6 Olympic champions, dressed as a man and entered the stadium, breaking the law banning women, to see her son, who was competing in boxing. In response to this incident, a law was passed requiring both athletes and their trainers to enter the stadium naked.
What were the competitions?
The Olympic Games were held for about 1,200 years. Over the years, there were changes in the types of events, as some were abolished and new ones were added. It is characteristic that in the first Olympiad, only one event was held, the stadium race. The stadium race was the oldest and most beloved race of the ancient Greeks. It was a one-stage race and was the only event during the first Olympiad in 776 BC. The winner of the race was called the stadium winner and could give his name to the entire Olympiad. In the first recorded Olympiad, the winner was Corivos Deilios. Pancratio Pamachia combined boxing and wrestling and had few restrictions due to the lack of rules, serious injuries, disabilities, and even strangulations even caused. In case of death of a teammate, there was legal cover and the responsible athlete was considered innocent. Responsibility was attributed to the victim who had not made provision for his or her physical condition to participate in the sports. In the Olympic Games of 200 BC, Pancratio was introduced in the children's category. The winner was Phaedimos from Alexandria in Asia Minor. Chariot racing was considered one of the most interesting sports. They were the privilege of wealthy citizens, rulers and kings, because of the high cost of purchasing the chariot, maintaining the horses and paying a specialized horseman. It was the only sport in which an athlete could win an Olympic title without participating personally. Examples are Hieron of Syracuson and Theron of Agragada.
Did women in antiquity only play sports or did they also compete?
Kiniska was a distinguished Spartan of royal descent who was actively involved in gymnastics and sports. She was the first female Olympic champion. She participated in the Olympic Games in 396 BC and 392 BC as an owner of horses in equestrian events. She bred horses and won the tetraplex. In the temple of Zeus in ancient Olympia, there was a marble pedestal with a bronze statue of Kiniska, with the tetraprus and the anechoic. On the surface of the circular base of the statue was an engraved 4-stroke epigraph. Later in 368 BC, every Leonesian in 267 or 266 BC, Berenike II of Egypt were crowned Olympic champions.
There were games exclusively for single women and were held in honor of goddess Syria every 4 years, a few days before the Olympia. 16 women from Ilia were responsible for the organization of the games, and as a thank you to Hera, they wove a veil. The participants were divided into categories: children, teenagers, and youth. The athletes had their hair loose and wore a short tunic with the right shoulder paired to the chest. As a prize, they were crowned with cotnos and received a piece of cow meat.
Who else was competing?
In children's events, the division of athletes into men and children was based on their physical characteristics, since there were no documents proving their age, and concerned athletes between 12 to 18. Aristotle criticized the participation of young athletes in the Olympia, arguing that the over-effort to be a champion negatively affected their development.
Were there others who were competing?
In the 96th Olympiad, the games of the trumpeters and the heralds began. The trumpeters competed in the intensity of the trumpet. The winners were rewarded with the honorary position of being the trumpeter at the start and end of the games. The herald competed in the volumes of the voice. They announced the names of the winner, the orders of the heralds, the start of the races, and the arrival of officials and celebrities in the stadium.
What was the winner's prize?
As soon as the race was over, the winner announced by the herald received a palm branch from the Elanodikis. They also tied red ribbons on his head, hands, and feet. The winners were also crowned with cotnos, and the herald would announce the name of the winner, his father's name, and his homeland.
Honors awarded to the winners. The Olympic champions were considered viable because their fame and glory also brought distinction to their home cities. The winners were honored in various ways by the cities, such as glorious entry, moral prizes, presents in the games, participation in the parliament, food in the Prytaneum, monetary rewards, the Andriads in Olympia, victory audits by lyrical poets. All these contribute to preserving the memory of victory and giving the winner a form of immortality.
How were athletes reminded of their sense of fair play?
In the ancient times, the Zanes were bronze statues representing Zeus and were placed in the entrance of the stadium in ancient Olympia. They were made with money from penalties imposed on the athletes for breaking the rules. Pedestals with inscriptions and advices reminded athletes to obey the rule, while the mention of the offender's name will not only tarnish the athlete, but also his home city.
What happened during wartime?
Olympic truce then and now. In the context of the Olympic Games, a compulsory truce was declared between the ancient Greek cities, meaning they paused any war happening at the time. A week before the Games started and the week after the Games ended, the wars were discontinued. The athletes and their families could travel free of their military obligations to participate in the Games. Legal disputes and death sentences were stopped. The observance of holy truce was sometimes violated. Nowadays, there are many war fronts around the world. Unfortunately, truce, this sacred concept for the ancients, does not find a fertilized ground. If we manage to have peace for 16 days, maybe one day we can have it forever, International Olympic Truce Center once said. Modern message of the Olympic Games. We are very hopeful for the Olympic Games in Paris 2024 this summer. We wish that the wars in every corner of the world will stop so the athletes can travel with safety and participate in this amazing organization. Thank you all so much for attending. Ιωάννα Παρασκευά, Γκασπαριάν Τερέζα, Πετρίδου Ειρήνη, Χαλκιά Σταματία. Ευχαριστούμε επίσης όλα τα παιδιά, Αγγελίδου Μαριλένα, Ανθοπούλου Ελευθερία, Αντωνοκλούδης Επαμεινώντας, Γκασπαριάν Τερέζα, Ζεμπέκη Χρυσάνθη, Καραντώνη Δήμητρα, Κατσόνης Ευάγγελος, Κόκα Παρασκευή, Κρικέλης Ευάγγελος, Λεβεντίδου Γεωργία, Μουταφίδης Κωνσταντίνος, Λικολαίδου Μύριανα, Παρασκευά Ιωάννα, Πατσαβούδης Αλέξανδρος, Πετρίδου Ειρήνης, Χιαπάκας Γεώργιος, Πύρου Ζωή, Τσαυλακίδης Εφήμης, Χαλκιά Σταματία, Χουρίδου Μαγδαληνή. Επίσης, να ευχαριστήσουμε τις υπεύθυνες καθηγήτριές μας, Μεωνίδη Ειρήνη και Μακρύδου Αλεξάνδρα. Ευχαριστούμε πολύ.